Hello and welcome along to our Think About It session, our Thursday bite-sized conversation around empowered leadership discussions, where we bring you a snapshot of what we're talking about, what we've seen in the business landscape, and just share our thoughts and ideas to help you be more collaborative, engaged and empowered leaders, business owners. Tienie, hello and welcome along.
Hi, Kirsty. It's an interesting topic today. I don't know if it's like high on anybody's agenda, but yeah, let's have a conversation.
So today we are talking about, for anyone that hasn't seen the title, managing the rise of the experience economy. So what does that even mean? Like, where are we even going with that? And how does this even impact SMEs and businesses and leaders and managers? Like, what does this even mean? Okay, so let's start with what is the experience economy?
So there's two elements that I've got in my head around this, and the one is what is the experience that I'm bringing to your business that I can fulfill for you to meet some of your performance objectives that'll help your team shift, that'll help you shift. So that's the one element of it. And that's where coaching, fusion coaching, executive coaching, well-being coaching, all of those things sit in that space, or even OD discussions and learning and development discussions and leadership development. So those are things that we come in and we help you shift potentially in that. But then also the other element of managing the rise of the experience economy sits in the business landscape where the customer's expectations go far beyond than just the product and services that you're delivering. So it's how are you in an ethical and a value add environment exceeding what you're saying you're going to be delivering from a customer experience perspective.
Yeah. So there's two sides to the coin, isn't there? It's about creating great experiences, and there's the internal experience of the experience you creating for your teams, your staff, and your workforce, and then there's the external experience of how are you creating incredible experiences for your client. Because I suppose there's been a shift in what people's expectations are of services, goods, and organizations. They really want to tap into having that great experience versus just an exchange of service, good, money, that like really, and don't get me wrong, I'm assuming there's still a place for that, but we are seeing a huge rise in the expectations of the experience versus that just pure exchange, aren't we?
I think consumers are growing tired of just receiving mediocre customer service, product and offerings. They can go to the pound shop with intent that that's what they want to go and do. That. Other people are going into different environments to seek something that, and someone that goes over and beyond. And that experience that you've had, and I'm sure you can only count them on a single hand of where someone has exceeded your expectations and you are looking to go and do business with them again 2 years later, 3 years later, just so that you can support them and be blown away by them.
And there's challenges, and I want to get into the challenges of it, because I think people sitting listening who are managers, business owners, this does bring challenge, because otherwise we'd all be creating this great experience, right? But I just want to explore a little bit of like, where do you feel this has come from? Or is it something new, or is it something that's kind of steadily grown? Why do you think we're kind of finding ourselves in this space? Because we've seen it, like if you look back to, if you think of Apple, really simple one, they have created owning a phone as an experience. You go into their shops, you like, no matter where you are, if you've got an Apple brand, that's like, it's creating its own experience. You've got the laptop, you've got the phone, you've got everything attached to it. It's an experience, right?
So there's two ways that I want to approach that question. Is that the first one is do what you say you're going to do. in the sense that you're living up to the expectations. You've said yes to something and you're following through on that. And start with that. And the second thing is look at what else there could be for you to help in that space and orientate towards a helpful, adding value orientated thinking rather than just let me fold these jeans up so that they look tidy because that's what's been asked of me to do. Let's move the signs right. Let's see if the positioning's okay. Let's speak to the manager. Let's see, do we need to add more? Does it meet the mannequin? I'm just using a retail as an example. So add value so that you almost become irreplaceable in a sense that people want to be interacting with you.
Do you think it's come from a place though of big brands like Apple and retailers marketing it a different way? Or do you think it's come from a desire of the consumer of sick of mediocre and are willing to kind of almost invest with purpose? I don't know.
I think there's two ways to do that. What Apple have done is as a consequence giving you.
Oh, sorry, Tienie, I lost you there.
Oh,
you dropped
okay.
out. You're back.
Yeah,
you said as a consequence of Apple's great experience.
Yeah, so it's as a consequence of creating that great experience that the phone then meets that experience or the sales pitch that's been offered. So it's a consequential result of the way that you're interacting and the experience that you're creating. It doesn't mean because I'm forthright and be using initiative and coming up with new ideas on how we need to do these jeans a little bit better and position them, that it's only the jeans that are going to sell. It's the experience the customer comes into the whole building that they're feeling and wanting to be able to experience that more. So it's as a consequence of what it is you're doing that is. And I feel that consumers have experienced that. And we're talking OD, we're talking in the consulting space, we're talking in the coaching space. No more superficial coaching. It's how do we dive deeper? How do we get to the true energy and environment of what it is we need to get to for that individual, for it to make sense for them. And it's the ability to be able to adjust to that. And as a consequence of that, you meet and exceed expectations. Yeah.
And I think talking in our industry and talking about us and what our area of expertise, you're right. People, and I think it's because over the years, obviously, we in a situation where people are really mindful of where they spend their money. They're looking for return on investment, whereas in the past they may have spent and invested and it not have had that return. And I think in our industry there is a lot of mediocrity, and obviously this is what we're really passionate about. But I think creating a great experience and going above and beyond that expectation is almost needed. Is that like fair in our kind of role, in our kind of business? And looking at, like, we talk a lot around how we want people to feel and what we're going to do to make it extra special. And like, it's really important to have these conversations around. It's not just, we're going to go and deliver a coaching accreditation. We're going to go and do some leadership academy. It's like, how do we create that really great experience around everything? It's like, whether it's the location, whether it's how use of ease, like it's really easy to book onto it. You can access our accreditation on your app. You can complete the programs on the app if you want. Like, how can we make it easy and accessible and always have great service? Like, it's going that extra mile almost in everything, isn't it?
Equipping sales teams or teams in general that are interacting with your clients to move beyond the product selling and create meaningful client interactions and engagements.
Yeah.
And playing in that space and reorientating towards, I need to create a great client interaction that's meaningful for them is where the shift is starting to happen. And it's whether you're managing stakeholders from an internal business perspective, it's whether you're managing your team from an internal perspective, is how are you creating that meaningful client interaction?
And that puts pressure on businesses, doesn't it? Because if you want to hold on to top talent, if you want to be recognized as a great employer, which we know leads to engaged, high-performing, more engaged teams, more productive teams. But that's a lot of pressure. But then there's also the pressure of serving your client and creating great experiences. So let's look at like the real challenges that we see, because it's quite easy to say you've got to just create a great experience and be exceptional in everything you do. Well, great, but that comes with a whole heap of challenge, right? And I think that's what we want to help people kind of get over, but like, how can we help them think differently about that challenge? So what are the challenges that brings?
So had a good conversation this morning with a business, and understanding the parent, adult, child ego that represents itself at work. And we all go to work with the parent, adult, child ego. The best conversations happen between adult and adult. Parent-child conversations are very difficult. Child-parent conversations, child-adult conversations are difficult. And it's being aware of the landscape or the conditions that you're creating for these things, for your teams to succeed. And so some of the challenges are, we get caught up in the moment difficult things that we need to do. We get caught up in the performance that's not up to standard. We get caught up in the work that's not been done. So we get caught up in all of those things, and helping people to step back and have a look at the picture and what is the pattern that's been created, and see how we can help navigate that for ourselves. And 9 out of 10 times, okay, let me call it 8 out of 10 times, because I think 20% of it is systems and operations that you get that are inhibiting people to actually perform better. But the other 80% is people. Yeah. And teams and colleagues and managing up and avoiding micromanagement. All of those things are symptoms that we see in businesses that we can help people create a greater experience. Yeah.
And I think it starts with the intent of wanting to be that kind of business, doesn't it? And that kind of leader and that kind of service. Because if you, going back to the analogy of the pound shop, and then this is no representation of the leadership or the people management of the pound shop. I'm talking like, if you want a pound shop and you want to build a business that is purely exchange of low quality, fast pacedness, that's fine. But we're talking about businesses that want to invest in that experience and be not the pound shop. Do you know what I mean? That might be the Marks and Spencers. Do you know what I mean? Or like whatever the experience is, it's the intent behind it, isn't it? Like
So the expectation of going into a pound shop versus the expectation going into a John Lewis are two different expectations. However, the internal makings and going on in those businesses are the same.
Yeah. 100%.
So it's how are you reorientating the people in those businesses, irrespective of what the product is that they're selling, that they transcend. And so I want to consistently go to that pound shop because they give an awesome service, and they, yes, it's the value for money correlation that I need to get in my head, but I can get a pack of Cadbury's, blah, 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 because the service is so much brilliant than me walking to my corner shop. So I'm willing to actually go those 10 minutes further. So it's how do you transcend the experience, irrespective of the product that you sell?
Yeah. And I think there's two things that come to mind around challenges when we've talking is, one, the short-term cost and investment that people perceive they need to create this. Because once you start, it becomes part of your culture. It's embedded. That's what you do, right? But there is a short-term potential cost. And also I suppose this is two sides to this. I'm thinking an innovation of how do we keep getting better? How do we keep, and is constant innovation it's a challenge, right? So how do we keep innovative? How do we keep excellent? How do we keep those standards? I suppose those two are the challenges that come to me when we talk about it.
Yeah. So the difference for me is there's an output.
Yeah.
I'm a specialist chemical sales distributor. I'm a retail, high-end retailer. I'm a mid-zone retailer. I'm an FMCG. I'm an engineering firm. I'm an agricultural firm. I'm a property retailer. That's the output of your product. And that's one element. And you can be innovative in that space should you require to do so. And it's aligned to your strategic intent.
Yeah.
What is more important than that is how am I aligning my people so that what they deliver for that output of my business transcends even who they are, and people want to come and do business with us.
Yeah. 100%.
And it's that whole piece. And it starts when you walk in the front door of a business's building and what that looks like. And that's a different conversation. But so those are the two different elements for me in that. And the challenge, sometimes people think, oh my goodness, it's a massive challenge. When in actual fact, we've worked with businesses where sometimes it's 3 elements, sometimes it's 4 elements, that if you just tweak them slightly or work quite hard at them in a focused way, it then starts creating a pattern orientated towards the transcending of what it is I'm trying to deliver in a natural and meaningful way.
Yeah.
And as soon as you get into that, it doesn't become difficult anymore.
No. And I think what I find a lot is when you start to think of, it's given people, and it normally sometimes takes someone like us or a third party to sit and ask questions and go, stop. How is every touch point in your business, and you're thinking there's a touch point from an employee from start to finish, and there's a touch point from a customer start to finish, right? And there's the internal and external touch points for those two processes. But if you actually just sit and go, right, what is the experience that individuals having? What experience do we want them to have? And look at the gaps and look at the data, look at the feedback, ask for feedback, gather feedback, see if everyone's coming to work with you to this point, then they don't return, they drop off, they don't come back. Actually, we've got a return percentage of 90%. Why? What are we doing really great? Like, it's actually stopping sometimes and taking a step back and going, how are they having a great experience across all those touch points? Because I see what people tend to do is get really tunnel visioned of, so say, for example, let's take Apple, because we've talked about it. We're great at manufacturing phones and selling them. That's it. Just phones, right? Well, actually, what about when they come into the shop? What about before that, when they see our sexy adverts and they see them like looking really cool and, you know, all of these things they've intentionally almost created their own standalone experience of. And I think that's really important for businesses and a really easy starting point to go, what is the current experience and what experience do we really want our customers and our employees to have?
Yeah. So you've triggered something for me in that conversation. And it's it becomes complicated when you feel you don't have the skills to be able to navigate it. So when you're a first line manager talking to the team about team dynamics and cooperating with each other and transcending what it is you deliver, and you feel, oh, I don't have the skill set and the business isn't supplying that to me, then it becomes a difficult piece for you. Because the whole self-directed learning, going on YouTube, having a look at whoever it is that delivers something like that, it's still, you've got to go and do it. And so being able to help people navigate that a little bit better is the business's responsibility.
Absolutely.
And the second element is strategic alignment. And that is where I feel the entry point starts with this whole transcending and exceeding expectations of your clients. And remember, as a team leader or as a line manager, your clients are your colleagues in your team.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As the CEO of the business, your direct reports are your clients. The
Mm-hmm.
whole business is your client if you're the CEO. So those are things, and how does that represent and transcend itself? So it doesn't matter where you sit in the org chart of the organization.
Yeah.
You will always have a client.
And it's always, when we talk about creating an experience, right, it could be even an experience between one department and another, one manager and one line report. Like, it's if we orientate our thinking to creating great experiences across the whole of our business, how am I leaving you feeling? If you've come over to my desk to ask for some support or to run something past me, and I've left you feeling, I don't know, judged, really insecure, like challenged, like that's not a great feeling for team dynamics, right? Like, so it's that thing of like, it's almost deep rooted in your culture for me. And if we start to think about like, why do we need to invest in this? Why do we feel like, because we're calling it managing the rise of it. So how do businesses manage it, and why should they manage it? There's the first question, because I've got so much that I could say on that. But why should they consider this? Why is this an approach that they need to be taken note of?
Like you, my brain's going all over the place. the landscape is changing. Where the customer's expectations are going beyond just products and services. They're looking for a memorable, personalized, immersive almost experience. And if that's what people want, and if that's what you're looking for as the line manager and love experiencing that, why not create that? And a consequence of that is improved performance, improved productivity, profitability. All of those things are the consequence of creating the landscape that you meet the customer's expectations that go beyond just the products and services that you're selling, where they are experiencing a memorable and personalized, almost immersive experience.
And it's the reputation, it's the, the returning of your customers and your clients. It's the people from the outside looking in, realizing and seeing the quality, the kind of intent, and all of this stuff. And it fundamentally comes back to that return repeat client. Straight to the bottom line, right? Like, it really does. And again, you're going to attract and retain top talent. You're going to become almost a desired place to work. So whilst we've gone, sorry.
So so an interesting conversation, excuse me, coming in here, an interesting conversation is that how do you become a trusted advisor as learning and development in your organization? How are you offering insights? Are you consistently just indicating problems, or are you solution seeking? What is the value added service that you bring for us to pay you the salary that we're paying you to head up the global team? So those are the questions that are starting to be asked by senior management, especially in the times when things are getting tight. It is the value add of the service offering that you're offering. And make no mistake, you as an individual going into the business, that is what you're there to do. Whereas I just need people to performance manage my team. I need to just crack the whip. I need the carrot and stick approach. I need the authoritarian way of working. Those things are all fading away.
Interestingly, building on that, what we see, and I know we talked about it previously, is also the experience of the workers, the employees. We see in experts, like the L&D functions and organizational development functions, looking very different, where we see in fractured support coming in, we see in experts being brought in for a day a week, 2 days a week. We see in people searching to create that great experience, rather than just going, we've got a generalist that's going to just do everything and everything's on their shoulders. It's actually, how can we create a great experience by pulling in the experts to give us what we need when we need it? But I also think that's reflective of the work and entrepreneurship landscape that we've seen a huge influx in people having a multi-hyphened career, business, whatever you call it. And I think that's only going to get stronger as the digital revolution happens as we ride this curve.
Yes.
But I think there is just a whole change of how organized, like you mentioned there about having an L&D team. A lot of people we work with from a SME perspective don't have an L&D team, right?
No.
They don't have a dedicated person, but they look for the experts. Like they'll bring us in as the expert, as the L&D, whatever they need. And that's what I see that how businesses are changing, how they seek support like ours and create great experiences by actually getting the right person for that job. But that actually might only be a project. That actually might only be 1 day a week. That might actually be, that fractured support versus I'm going to have to recruit a whole team. I'm going to have to employ someone full time. Like that's the changes that I'm seeing in organizations across the board, really.
Yeah, and it's taken us full circle because, as we said in the beginning, people are going to be selling 10 hours here, 5 hours there, because I'm a specialist in this space and I can help you in your SME as you set your business up from a learning and development or organizational development perspective, or, help in that space and get you going. Whereas they don't want a full-time salary to offer that in. They just want someone to come in and deliver that, but add value. Transcend the experience, create those great experiences. And you and I are great believers in the human AI. And what we mean by that is us as humans creating an application and impact of what it is we deliver. And what does it look like? And how does that experience from an application point of view transcend what they thought they were even capable of? And what's the impact on your business as an SME? And how are you now flourishing because of the AI?
Yeah. And I think just as a part note for me of one last point is, and this comes back to the whole strategic intent and working with, whether it is a leadership team, whether it's a board, whether it is a founder owner, whether it's a startup, whether it's a small, board of a mid-sized company, like it doesn't matter who it is. It's almost like the decision makers and leaders of the business need to be so intentional about this, because there's a big piece for me around this experience of it being authentic. And what we don't want this to be, for me, is we're going to tick the box. We're going to show them and give them an experience because that's what we know works and gives us the revenue and recurring clients. It has to be genuinely authentic from, this is what we truly believe as a business. Like, we're going to excel in this service. Like, we're really passionate about it. Like, this is what we want our employees and our clients to experience from us. Like, it has to be so deeply valued in your business that it is just almost second nature. Because I think as soon as people start to see that disconnect and it becomes inauthentic, it's not going to work, and it's going to actually repel versus attract. Yeah.
And what you've shifted my thinking into is it's not authenticity and navel gazing and, oh, look at how we're going to be doing this. We hold us and you as the client to account, because the contract that we agreed on was actually to make a difference, to transcend. So we hold ourselves to account for not only delivering the product, but pulling it through and making sure it lands from an application and impact perspective in your business, because that's how we transcend the whole topic of today's experience economy element.
And I think it's just really final point before, because we do have to go, is what you've just made me think there is, and that's why it's so important to align who your client is, and that if you can't serve them, tap out, because you're not going to create a great experience.
That's it.
And that's a tricky conversation. And I know we've talked about it in other sessions and stuff, but it's about finding those clients that are really willing to invest in what you've got and they're really the right fit, because that's the only time they're going to get a great experience, rather than feeling shortchanged or this wasn't quite what we've signed up to kind of thought process.
Yeah. And
brilliant.
As you know, we found clients to be fearful because they don't want to be held to account to actually deliver work that transcends who they are.
Yeah, it's a two-way street, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, great conversation today. Really interesting. Thank you, Tienie, once again for coming along and having the conversation. Thank you to anyone that's listening. Share your thoughts with us. Drop us a message. We'd love to connect with you